After decades of warning, Israel has attacked the head of the snake, Iran. What are the Iranians saying? The answer will actually surprise you. We have the inside exclusive scoop. And of course, as ever, Scumbags of the Week. Only on JMS, only on the Quad. Israel finally last Thursday night retaliated in order to destroy the threat of nuclear annihilation that they've been threatening us with for years and years and years. And here, not in the studio this week because of the emergency situation in the country, I have my wonderful co-host, Emily Schrader, who is a human rights activist and journalist and Iran expert, Shoshana Keats-Jaskal, who is the founder of Chokhmat Nashim, fighting for women's rights, and very, very special guest, Lily Mu, who is an Iranian human rights activist in exile, who is joining us today for a very special episode. But before we start, let's look at some scenes in what's going on right now in Tehran and around Iran.
Here's a 30-second bedtime ritual you can do to awaken your pineal gland. Did you know that your pineal gland's inability to connect with the universe stems from one single root?
Okay, so chaos. It's chaos here. 19 people have died in Israel since the beginning of the ballistic missile attacks on us, Jews and Arabs alike. And here we are under attack from this very toxic regime. And Lily, I want to start with you. You're looking at what's going on. You're looking at the reaction of the world. I know that many Iranians all around the world are seeing this as their opportunity, the opportunity to get back their country. How are you feeling in these moments?
Good morning to you and everyone in Israel and across the globe who are watching this or whatever time it is that you're witnessing these stories. First and foremost, I want to say it's heartbreaking that the Islamic Republic has brought this war onto my nation and my country, onto Iran. Iranian civilians have been held captive under that regime for the past 45 years. And every time that regime has failed itself, it has officially attacked, actually, missile attacks on Iranian people. And it has also happened during the past 3 days, as they've been failing to retaliate the way they thought they can against the IDF. But we will get to that. I want to say Iranian people are seizing this opportunity. They have been preparing to rise up against the regime the moment the regime is at its weakest. And today, this regime is at its weakest. It's hollowing from Mossad is in every corner. I mean, from Ismail Haniyeh onwards, that regime has been on eggshells around itself. Even in their own private rooms, they cannot have their own conversations. Everybody is an enemy in the eyes of Khamenei and his disciples. And as we are witnessing the surgical removal of the IRGC heads and their family members and whatever leftovers are leaving and fleeing the country, Iranian people are rejoicing. They are absolutely afraid. They are traumatized at the sight and the sound of war, witnessing their family members and businesses dismantled and just deprecated is heartbreaking, but this is an opportunity, and they see this as an opportunity. They're all coming out shouting at the dictator. Last night at 9 p.m., we witnessed across Iran, everybody, Iranians getting together behind their windows, behind the dark rooms, calling out for the return of Reza Pahlavi, calling out for the downfall of Khamenei, calling out, blaming this regime for this war. Israel is here to aid Iranian people move forward from this tyrannic regime. And that's the view of all Iranians, most Iranians. Sure, Iranian people are traumatized, but they want to get rid of, seize this opportunity to get rid of this regime. And if non-Iranians outside of Iran, Marxist Islamists outside of Iran want to whitewash this into this, suddenly Khamenei's life is a life that matters and his human rights suddenly matter and his friends and his allies and oh please, hashtag Kotlet. Everyone in Iran is celebrating, honestly.
That's incredible. Lily, and do you believe that there's a viable Iranian alternative government and opposition that is set and ready to take over?
King Prince Reza Pahlavi is a uniting figure outside of Iran and inside of Iran. Iranian people are calling for the return of the Pahlavi. They're calling for the return of the queen, and they're looking forward to the recrowning and crowning of Reza Pahlavi into his official position as king. Please, Emily, take this.
I was just going to say that I think that the majority, more than any other opposition figure, the majority of Iranians are behind the Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. But again, this isn't something that I think is up to me. I'm not an Iranian. I'm not someone who's going to live under a future government of Iran. So it's not my decision to make. And whatever decision the people of Iran ultimately go with is something that we should respect, assuming it's not the Islamic regime. But I think they've made it pretty clear that's not what they want for their future. That being said, based on what they're telling me, based on what the voices from Iran, even from inside of Iran, has spoken to me about, that would be the most popular figure of any of the opposition figures that they're talking about leading in New Iran. But first and foremost, I just want to emphasize that it isn't a stated objective of the state of Israel to bring about regime change. I mean, regime change is something that maybe we can lay the groundwork for, that we can assist, because frankly, it's in our interest, security wise. That's why we're doing it. We're not a country that goes and invades other countries for humanitarian reasons. We're not in a position to do that. We're not a global superpower. It's not up to us to change regimes. That being said, it is an opportunity for the Iranian people to decide their own fate, to step up, to rise up, rising lions, and to take back their country that's been effectively occupied by this Islamist terrorist regime since 1979 that has been terrorizing their own people just as they have been terrorizing the citizens, both Arab and Jewish, as you mentioned, Fleur, both Arab and Jewish in the state of Israel. This is something we cannot continue to ignore. It's something that the entire Western world should not be ignoring any longer. And I think that's why you see a little bit more diplomatic support than even I would have expected from Europe. I've been pleasantly surprised by the responses so far. We'll see if that continues in the coming weeks. I know we're probably going to have at least a couple of weeks of this terrible war, but I am cautiously optimistic about the responses that we've seen so far, because they understand that their necks are on the line as well. Perhaps they didn't feel what it was like to have Hamas invade their borders like we did on October 7th. Hamas, of course, being another proxy of the Islamic regime in Iran. But they know what the Islamic regime in Iran is, and they know what a threat it is, even to their own civilizations. Of course, in the UK, one of the worst places, also in France. And yet those are two of the countries we've seen speak out in support of Israel, despite the fact that Israel is the one who actually implemented or initiated, I should say, this round of the war between the Islamic Republic and the state of Israel.
I mean, look, they've been supportive diplomatically, but the real question is anybody going to join the fight with Israel? And the question really goes to America. So first of all, I'm pleasantly surprised that all those terrible pundits who kept saying that Israel was not going to be given the green light by Trump, and the US was going to stop us attacking Iran, they were all wrong. We had to do what we had to do because we have to protect our country first. And Trump has been, I think, okay. The question is, can we complete the job on our own without anyone? Shoshana, your American sources, what are people telling you? Are the Americans going to join in? I know there's a fierce debate within America at the moment whether they should or they shouldn't.
I mean, I think anyone who thinks America's not involved is a little bit naive. I think America has given us its explicit support, whether it's, helping us refuel, whether it's shooting down rockets, whether it's not stopping us. Trump was part of the whole sleight of hand. I think I have to say, as someone who's not a big Trump fan, whoa, like that was quite an amazing. I mean, everybody was fooled. Everybody was fooled. And so the idea that America's not behind us is obviously silly. I do, however, think that Trump is correct not to bring out his planes, not to do something too overt, because I think it would really cause a tremendous what's a word for Balagan in English? It would be a big fight in America, I think, if people saw that, and not only just by the right, but I think, and I understand this, there's a lot going on in America right now, and they don't need this explicit type of war, especially when Israel's like, yo, that's okay. We just need you to do these few things for us and stay out of our way. I don't personally think we need American jets flying over in that regard, in that way, but I think that the American support is obviously vital, and we have it.
Well, I
Well,
actually think that
I'm not sure I agree with that. Go on, Emily.
I was just going to say, I definitely, I think there's a case to be made for that. But I do think that this is also the fight of the United States. I mean, we're talking about a regime that's been sworn to the US's destruction as well.
Exactly.
They have carried out terror attacks. They've murdered, American forces in multiple countries. They attempted to assassinate the president. Like,
Yeah.
they're not, it's saying that it's not our war as an American it's just simply inaccurate. I mean, this
Well,
is
I did not say that.
that I know, but this is what a lot of the voices who are cautious about this caution, I think, is justified. But at the end of the day, when you look at the actual evidence, I think it's very clear that this is also a war, that involves the United States. And when it comes to like U.S. troops being involved or U.S. planes, well, first of all, they already are U.S. planes that we're flying. But in terms of under the name of the U.S. Air Force, obviously this is something that's different. But I will say that I think that it will be much quicker and much more effective and much less deadly for
I agree.
everyone involved if there are American forces on board. We want this to be efficient. We want this to be fast, and we want minimal casualties as possible. We don't want any civilians to die on the Iranian side. And when it comes to having the most efficient and safe war that we can have, I think it's really important that we push for American involvement because we don't want to see this get worse. It's the same thing as I argued before about sanctions. It's not because I want the Iranian people to suffer under sanctions. I know that it's a terrible situation for them. But the only way, in order to force the regime to stop at least some of their terrorist activities and to increase the pressure on the regime in a way that could force it potentially to fall without a war, was sanctions, was empowering the Iranian people. And all of the West missed this boat. And now we're in a war where potentially innocent people could die. And we're going to have to figure out a way to navigate that as carefully as possible because that's not what we want to happen. So when we say that we want to minimize casualties as much as possible, listen to us. This is how we can do things more effectively in the least deadly way possible.
Absolutely. Lily, in terms of the Iranian people, what is the support for this? I tell people when they ask me, 70 to 80% of people in Iran want the end of the regime. Am I correct? Is it more? Is it less? What is the sentiment there? And do they know that Israel is not aiming at civilian populations, but it's actually aiming at bringing down, or maybe not a stated aim, but at least bringing down the nuclear threat?
The thing is, Iranian people more than ever right now need international community support behind them to get rid of this regime through diplomacy. For example, this regime came out very clearly, very openly targeting all of the countries across the globe, openly saying anybody who stands with Israel, whether or not they're taking attack against us, are our enemy and they are exposed to our attacks, they have exposed themselves. Any country in the world that is okay with Israel existing is now our enemy. Remember, IRGC members are active in all of the countries in Europe. They are active in all of the countries in Africa. They're walking around. They have come through the borders from South America into America in their thousands. And imminent threat of the Islamic Republic is out there threatening the general public of the West. It's not just the war with Iran and Israel. Iranian people do not want this war. Iranian casualties, Iranian death of innocent people has already taken place. Israel in Tel Aviv, in Bat Yam, children have died. No Iranian wants to see a child die anywhere on the planet. And this is the situation we're in. For over 3 years, Iranian people have laid down through the diaspora the groundwork for the international community to step in, step forward, and call out this regime for what it is, call their ambassadors, call them out and ask, today is their chance. Today, right now, is their chance. It's Monday. It's the first day of the week. It's 3 days into the war. The attack on the Western society and Western governments has already been declared by Khamenei and his government. Why they're at their weakest, by the way. So when a regime is suicidal, they're not just going to take themselves out. They're willing to take everybody out. And this is why it was important to make sure that the nuclear facilities are not usable. It's unbelievable that I am actually saying these words out loud because I was prominently against Iranian infrastructure such as nuclear facilities getting hit because of the devastating natural disasters that could follow through. I've yet to see how all of this is turning out, but so far there's not been any spillage. Thank God.
That's incredible. Lily, just to follow on from your point, in terms of the Iranian diaspora, there's a lot of very powerful Iranians around the world, especially America. Do you think they are also using now their political clout to push the White House to join in and just get rid of this regime?
There is a bit of a polarized situation with the diaspora, especially in the West. In America, we have had NIAC actively advising administrations like Obama's and Biden's. And during the Masa Amini uprising and the Women Life Freedom National Revolutionary Uprising that took place 3 years ago, we tried to dismantle NIAC. We tried to call them out. Other Iranian diaspora members who were active in lobbying against the regime and for the Iranian people were actively trying to advise the American administrations and governments against siding with the regime, against appeasement. At the moment, I would say in the US, NUFTI is a reliable organization that supports King Reza Pahlavi, Prince Reza Pahlavi, well, His Royal Highness, anybody who wants to put any titles. For all I know, Iranian people love the Pahlavi family. I personally love them. And there is only one person who is speaking the language of Iran before the devastation of the Islamic Republic and still has a civil link with the world and is in exile just like the rest of the diaspora. Let's not forget, Iranian people are not just migrants. We are living in exile because our country is under threat. It's been living under devastating atrocity after atrocity. Everybody is currently focusing on the fact that human life is being taken out, innocent human life is being taken out in Iran at the hands of Israel. Where were they when in 2019, a flood that washed 2/3 of Iran because of bad infrastructure, because the Islamic Republic built homes, actual resident homes on riverbeds that were dried for about 10 years? And then 10 years later, in 2019, a flood that could have been directed properly because they cut down the jungles of the north of Iraq, washed down the country. Millions of animals, farm animals, were killed. Millions of Iranians were displaced from their homes. Iranian women had no access to any sanitary products. Where were all of these feminist, woman life freedom, keffiyeh wearing people now? Where were they then? Where were they during the past 2 years since the proxies of the Islamic Republic took action, materialized everything we were warning about? Where were they? Now suddenly in their stories, you have Vatanam Irano, please. Every time they it stinks of Palestine. That's all I'm gonna say.
We also see now a lot of the opposition to the Israeli activities. I mean, we've seen it in London outside of the Islamic Republic embassy. There were protesters, and the most common flag they had wasn't the Iranian flag, even the Islamic regime's flag. It was the Palestinian flag. These are the same. It's the same cult. It's the same
Yeah.
Free Palestine
Yeah.
movement that's presenting themselves as somehow defending Iran or defending Iranians, which is insane because the majority of Iranians, of course, as Lily stated, are against them. And where were these people when all of these other things were happening inside of Iran, even a few weeks ago, not so recently, not so far away in the past, there were all these slew of explosions across Iran. None of them were Mossad. It wasn't a sabotage operation. It was because the Islamic Republic continues to store things in an irresponsible way, especially
Yeah.
military things. And it's been fire after fire after fire after disaster after explosion. People have died. Dozens have died in Bandar Abbas. There was a massive explosion because they were trying to import explosive materials for their rockets, for their ballistic missiles. It was stored improperly. It exploded. Dozens of people died. Everyone was silent. Of these same people who are protesting in support of Iran were completely silent about this, if they're even aware that it happened in the first place. I mean, the hypocrisy is crazy. But I do want to say just one more thing that I think is really important to note, and that is that the regime is incredibly weak because of the successes of Israel in targeting IRGC targets as well as IRGC terrorists themselves. But when the regime is weak, it's also important to note that in the past, they have used these opportunities to try to frame Israel as killing civilians. They are no stranger to false flag operations. I know it sounds conspiratorial to Western ears, but this is a reality, as Lily can attest to. I mean, they shot down a commercial airliner full of their own civilians, PS 752. This isn't the first time that they've done terror attacks against their own people in order to frame Israel. And I'm getting messages from inside Iran on an hourly basis, at least, of people saying, we're really concerned that the regime is going to, put rocket launchers in the middle of civilian areas, or that they're going to set off explosions within Iran itself. We know already some of the ballistic missiles have misfired and landed inside of Iranian territory. We don't know yet what all the casualties are on that front, but we know for sure who they're going to blame, no matter who's responsible. It's the state of Israel. And I think
Well,
it's important
absolutely.
to evaluate everything that starts to come out of this desperate regime with a grain of salt, because they are not a reliable actor. They are actively working against their own people. And they've been threatening already. They've been using their state broadcaster to threaten Iranians to stay off the streets and not protest. They've threatened people with violence, imprisonment, even death if they take photos or videos. So there's a lot of pressure on Iranians right now from their own regime, not from the state of Israel, but from their own regime. So we have to consider this when we're getting information about what's coming out from inside of Iran right now.
That's a really good point. And they always say a wounded animal is at its most dangerous. And that's where we find ourselves. And as we know from the Islamist playbook that we saw in Gaza over the last year and a half, shooting their own people is actually part of their strategy. And putting their own people in danger is actually part of the Islamist playbook. And so nothing would surprise us. And like you said, it's at its most dangerous right now. Shoshana, I want to go to you in terms of where we're at, Israel. You're from a family of first responders, and the casualties have been really rough. But on the other hand, when you think of what could have been, it's almost like, are we living in a miracle, or is this horrible? I mean, it's both at the same time. What can you tell us?
There's no question that it's both at the same time. And the fact that there are hundreds of ballistic missiles being fired at us, if not thousands, some of which are being taken out by the Air Force before they even cross Iranian territory or before they even get out of their launchers. But the fact of the matter is, the safe rooms they're wonderful, and they can save us from interceptions and pieces from interceptions, but not from direct hits. And you have first responders who are going out, like you said, in the minute they hear of a fall, and they're both at one time. We have to be careful not to give the Iranian regime too much information about where it fell, and on the other hand, we have to let our people know where to respond to. And because I have my wonderful responders at home, 3 of them, every single thing that comes in, every launch, every fall, everything is coming in. And what we don't know at home, what most of us don't know at home, we hear here, and it is extremely, extremely sad and stressful and difficult to listen to. You hear them on the radio talking about, there are missing people, there's collapsed buildings, there's things going on. And then what we see at home, because we're trying to be careful not to give too much information, is a fraction of what is actually outside. And it is devastating. And the safe rooms can't save us from direct hits from ballistic missiles. And I just want to take a moment to say, if anyone who's listening to us doesn't go into a safe room, doesn't listen to those incredible warnings that the state of Israel is sending us, please do not do that. There are multiple people. We have some of the clips. who say that being in the safe room saved their lives. That
Absolutely.
the moment that they went in, that's when it hit. So even if yes, it can't protect you against an absolute direct hit, those are fortunately rare. And being in your safe room is where you must be, even if it's inconvenient, even if it's annoying. You have to go in. That is the only way you can do your best to take care of yourself. And I have to say that the state of Israel, with all of the warnings that are so difficult to listen to, and anyone who hasn't heard them, they're really loud and they're really scary, and the lights are flashing and you get scared, but at least you know to go down and try to be safe. And so on the one hand, yes,
Absolutely.
it's scary. On the other hand, you have to do what you can to save your life, and let the first responders go to those places that really need them, and have fewer incidents, God willing.
Thanks, Shoshana, and thanks to your family for all the wonderful work that they do. Emily, where are we going to be in a week? We are now in the 3-day war, going into the 4-day war. Is this going to be a short war or a long war in your prediction?
I mean, I'd actually love to hear your take, Fleur, but I would say it depends a lot on the Americans.
Yeah,
We
I
can do
agree.
this the hard way, or we can do this the easy way.
Yeah,
And ultimately, I think that's going to be up to the U.S. president to decide. I'm hopeful that at the very least we'll get exactly what we need militarily in terms of equipment to carry out whatever we need to do for the state of Israel. But beyond that, I think, like I said before, it will be a lot quicker, a lot less deadly if we're able to see a very clear, decisive victory over the Islamic regime in Iran. And I think also something that Lily said earlier is really important to emphasize again, and that is that we need to see more support, even in lip service. We need to see more support for the people of Iran, who are in an incredibly precarious position. But it's also something that we haven't seen before. This isn't Iraq. It isn't an Arab country. It isn't something that the West is trying to impose on Iranians. And if and when they do take to the streets, they need to know that the West is going to stand behind them. And actually, furthermore, I think they need to know that Israel will stand behind them against besieged forces, against IRGC forces who are physically going to try to confront them and shut them down in violent ways. And of course, then blame Israel. We need to be there for them. One way or the other,
absolutely.
we need to be there for them, and we need to support those protests if and when they happen, because that ultimately is the most important thing for the future of the Iranian people internally, but also for the future of the region. So it's really in
Absolutely.
everybody's interest here, and we need the West to back that up as well.
I agree. Lily, do you see that in the next few days, as we continue to weaken the regime, the people of Iran are going to rise and there's going to be a full-fledged revolution? Do you see that happening?
But this is what I was actually going to tell you all about. As we were just talking about first responders and how Israel is doing everything in its power to take care of its citizens, the Islamic Republic is forcing people to stay in those homes where underneath our beautiful historic cities such as Isfahan, where it has lasted thousands of years, one of the world's 7 wonders, they have and built-in artilleries and missile manufacturers, and my entire family are currently in danger. As Israel sending warnings for people to leave and flee in the most efficient way, the IRGC has turned Iran into checkpoints where every single car is being ransacked, every single electronic device is being looked through so that Iranian people don't share their information outside. God forbid they are connected to Starlink internet. It has come out that some people have managed to access Starlink, but it's very hard and it's extremely dangerous because it's going to put people in prison. Getting caught being connected to Starlink at the moment is a criminal offense in Iran, so it's not very. I mean, it's that bad. This is the cut. As we talked about shelters and having safety rooms. The Islamic Republic has waged war for the past, ever since its existence. We talked about flags. When they took over the American embassy on November 5th, 1979, there was no Iranian flag there. There was no request for Iran. It was only anti-Western rhetoric and Marxist Islamism with PLO identity and ideology, seeking the Americans to leave Israel, remove Israel as a state and give it back to Palestine, and kill the West until the Islamic Republic and its ideology have been taken and become the Dawah of the West. Like, this is the phonetic crazes we are dealing with. Those people have had my country in the same way their embassy was held hostage. They have my entire country hostage for the past 46 years. And now we're asking Iranian people how are they going to deal with this. Iranian people are traumatized. Iranian people are witnessing their homes blown up. Iranian people don't know if their heritage will be staying there. We do not want American flights bombing Iranian infrastructure. We want Iranian people free of this menacing, tumorous regime. If let's say this, in a surgical procedure, when a surgeon goes and removes a cancerous tumor, a host has a much higher chance of surviving if that tumor is removed and not burst out. We don't want these IRGC tumors bursting into more poisonous existence than they already have. They are currently taking their resources and flying at Iran while all of Iran's air space is closed and it's actually illegal to fly. And another thing, this is a regime that actively looks for human shields when there is no bullets coming their way. When on October 1st, when they opened fire on Israel, Iranian domestic passenger flights were flying in above the sky of Shiraz. There is passengers videoing the missiles going, and people didn't know if they're going to live or not.
They don't care.
It's their own.
They don't care.
And then say this is a cause of being enemies with Israel.
Yeah. Like Hamas, they will sacrifice their own people in an altar of a very toxic ideology. And even though, ladies and gentlemen, we're in the middle of a war, we're still going to do our very popular segment, even more, actually, more relevant than ever, Scumbag of the Week. All right, Shoshana, let's start with you. There's so many scumbags this week. Which one's yours?
I'm still trying to decide right now which is going to be my scumbag of the week.
Which one? Which one?
I
So
know.
many.
I think I probably have to go with the hundreds, if not thousands, of people who thought that they were going to flood Egypt and then walk over to Rafah.
Oh, yes.
To break the siege with no aid. I'm not exactly sure what they thought they were going to do, but my scumbags of the week are all those people who have left their homes, maybe their jobs, but maybe not, have left their homes in various countries to storm Egypt, Nabah, poor Egyptians, and try to get through to Rafah. Now, I will say I understand empathizing with people that you want to help. I think that's great. But this is so misguided, this is so stupid, and it's so narcissistic that these videos are insane. Watching this, I mean, the one that I'm thinking of is this white, I think he's Irish or British guy, crying to the Egyptian soldiers who are standing there like this.
Where is your heart? I believe that the people of the Arabic nations have a white heart. I believe you are good people. They are starving children. I tried to feed these children and they shot at me.
It's the best.
He's
It
like,
just shows the complete ignorance of these people.
utter ignorance. Complete
Welcome
and
to the
total
Middle
ignorance.
East. Welcome to the Middle East.
No, they have no idea what they're talking about. They have no idea where they're going to, and they have no idea that they just have no idea. They're just stupid. So there's thousands of people coming. They're trying to get through Egypt, and the Egyptians just not only standing there, but the Egyptian people are taking them bodily and removing them.
And
it's just-
beating them. Beating them.
It's just nuts. And I feel like this is so, like, this is just the world. This is the world now. These are the white people cosplaying as if they know what they're talking about, as if they know what's happening in the Middle East. And here you have people in Iran begging to be freed from the overlords on them. And even the Gazan people, the good Gazan people, want to be freed from Hamas. And they're coming. What do you think you're going to do, Judd? What are you going to do when you get over the Rafah border? What are you going to do? And so, thank God the Egyptians haven't let them over, because it would be a bloodbath. So yeah, I mean, I guess they're my scumbags of the week. They're
But I just don't understand why they ever thought that Egypt, who's created since the October 7th, who built another 4 borders, 4 walls, how they were going to be let in. I mean, if Egypt wanted to be helpful, they would have just opened the gates and let the Gazans out. How on earth did they think they were going to get in? That's, I guess, narcissism.
That's an
It's
excellent
incredible.
point, Fleur. It's an excellent point. That if that really what they could have done, the Egyptians, if they were going to do something, is let the civilians in, let us take out Hamas.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. But they are definitely, I'm not sure scumbag is a word. Maybe useful idiots is a better word. But either way, they are definitely worthy of us thinking, highlighting them for being stupid and scumbaggy. Thank you very much. Emily, who's your scumbag this week?
Oh, I mean, again, there's a lot this week, so it's hard to narrow it down. But I mean, I gotta go with Trita Parsi. Trita Parsi is the co-founder of NIAC, which is effectively, not officially, the lobbying group that represents at least the interests of the Islamic regime in Iran in Washington, D.C. They've been working, they worked with the Biden administration, they worked with the Obama administration, of course, and coincidentally, they always side on the issues in whatever is in the interest of the Islamic regime. Funny how that happens, right?
Yes.
Anyway, Trita has a little obsession with me. He has for some time because I called out Nayak. So he loves to whine about me. And just yesterday, he tweeted something saying to all Iranian Americans who fell for Emily's lies about Nayak 3 years ago, I hope you realize that you were the victims of a malicious Israeli campaign designed to eliminate organized opposition to Israel bombing Iran. Now that that goal is achieved, she reveals her true face. The sneaky Israelis plotting the conspiracy.
If only we were so organized, and if only somebody actually paid us for any of this.
Right? I mean, I'm supposedly the head of the desk of Mossad for Iran. I'm an agent who apparently most recently brings Reza Pahlavi to Canada. Like,
wow.
the list is endless. But Trita Parsi, every time he whines about me, it's always some Jewish conspiracy that he loves to emphasize, and this is consistent with everything we've seen from him for years. I mean, he reveals himself in the type of content that he puts out. It isn't about the Iranian people. It isn't about what's good for the future of Iran. It's only about demonizing Israel, spreading really anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and removing any kind of responsibility whatsoever from the Islamic regime in Iran for their crimes against humanity that they have committed and that they are committing, both against the entire population of the Middle East and their own people inside of Iran. So Trita Parsi, you are my scumbag of the week. And boy, you are a nasty scumbag, but it's fine. I know you're going to be unemployed soon, so I'll give you a little bit of sympathy.
Maybe even in jail, Emily. Let's hope. Okay, Lily Moo, I can't wait to hear. Who is your scumbag? Maybe one or even two.
Honestly, I couldn't choose between the two, so I'm going to just be very selfish and just take both of them. So for a century, we've had this cripple crazy old grumpy man taking over Iran and calling himself the great dictator. And I mean the Ayatollah, my apologies. And this people is named Ali Khamenei. He's a Marxist pedophile, actually, and
he's a pedophile. I know that for years.
Yes, he pushes that pedophilic ideology. He is a menace against Iranian women, and he has brought shame to Iranian men. He has caused really pushed the gender apartheid into existence through his entire rule of Iran and his darkness. They call him the Zahak. Zahak is a character who has two snakes coming out of his shoulders. A character from Shahnameh Ferdowsi, and everybody wants the Zahak to be gone. So this Zahak snake's heads are getting cut every day, but the new ones growing as the IRGC members are still not fully cutleted yet. But we're getting there soon. My other scumbag of the week. Oh God, where do I even begin with this little? So a certain woman named Faize Hashemi Rafsanjani, a descendant of the other traitor of Iran who was also responsible for thousands of Iranians dying. He's responsible for the darkness and the gray colors in my childhood. And not this woman who has had access to so much privilege, who has actual real estate, as like full on like towns in Canada on his own. She has the pistachio empire of Iran. She's a crazy, crazy, evil woman who has helped the perpetrators keep this gender apartheid. Started campaign for the next supreme leader of Iran, none but other than Mojtaba Khamenei himself, the one who is the main leader and owner of the IRGC at the moment. So he's like one of the major number one terrorists in the world at the moment. And his existence has only brought more chaos and more stability, more chaos for people and more stability for the future of the regime. So for someone like Faiza sitting there looking for a future for the Islamic Republic in these days, it's not only shameful, she's going to be like Hitler in the history of Iran.
That's interesting. Wow. Well, two very worthy scumbags, and hopefully we can see them soon being completely demised and out, and give your country a chance to restore itself to the incredible country that it once was. You know, I'm reading this like this huge history of the Jewish people. And in fact, when it was the Persians that were in this region, it's the time when the Jews lived their best lives, actually, in antiquity. And it's something very interesting that we should look forward to a relationship like we once had. And in fact, we're related through Queen Esther, but that's a whole other story. Okay, my scumbags of the week are the usual spokespeople in America for everything that is bad and twisted. The Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Dave Smith, those self-appointed arbiters of what's right and wrong, who have decided to side with a toxic Islamic regime instead of with the Western democracy that is Israel in the middle of the Middle East, trying to liberate the Iranian people. And before Israel attacked Iran in retaliation for 2 attacks last year, let's not forget, is the fact that Tucker Carlson was pushing really, really hard for America to ban Israel from going and attacking Iran, and from getting President Trump to stop Bibi from doing what we need to do to protect our country. And these people are disgraceful. They are telling the world that we have territorial ambitions that we don't have, all to malign us, all because ultimately to their core, they're anti-Semites. They're not just isolationists. They are truly anti-Semites, and they continue with their very toxic propaganda. The good news is that in this battle of the right in America between Tucker Carlson and, God bless him, Mark Levine, who was also campaigning in his own way through the press, Mark Levine won and Tucker Carlson lost. So we want to continue the pressure on the United States to continue standing by Israel. I think that's going to happen because America realizes the threat that it poses to itself, because the Islamic Republic have killed over 600 American servicemen and women over the last 40 years. And we are taking out the people who have killed innocent Americans. And so for all those reasons, Tucker, Candace, Dave, and a slew of other wannabes, you are my scumbags yet again, because we've had you on before, but you're my scumbags this week. And so just to finish on a positive note, as we always do, Emily, give us your hero this week.
All right, so my hero might be obvious this week, but I've got to go with Mossad. You know, my bosses. The work that they have done, even in the past 72 hours, is just absolutely. I have no words. I have no words. I mean, the way that they have been able to build up resources to build connections with the Iranian people, to even have entire drone producing factories inside of Iranian territory. The way they've assisted the Air Force in targeted assassinations of IRGC terrorists, of regime officials. It's unbelievable, and it's unbelievably accurate. And I just have the utmost respect for what they have done so far in this war. And I actually look forward to seeing how they're going to be dealing with the Islamic Republic in the coming days and weeks, and seeing new cutlets, as Lily says, which is a joke that a lot of Iranians make about, after the U.S. assassination of Qasem Soleimani, the head of the IRGC. They made jokes all over social media that he was turned into cutlet, like meat patties. So there's plenty of cutlet production going on right now inside of Iran, thanks to the Mossad. And I have to tip my hat to them and thank them for the incredible and courageous work that they are doing, and that they have been doing, and that they will be doing in the coming weeks. So it remains to be seen what all that entails, but I'm sure there will be some surprises.
Amazing heroes. Honestly, the courage that they have is unprecedented in the world. I don't know who else has the courage to be in the enemy territory for so many years, working so efficiently, so effectively. Amazing heroes. Thank you very much, Emily. Okay, Shoshana, who are your heroes or hero this week?
So I definitely agree with Emily, and I'm taking the other half, the people that worked with the Mossad. My heroes this week are the IAF, the Israel Air Force, that has just been incredible beyond anything. Just to explain to people who aren't here, Thursday night, we got this massive, like an earthquake warning in our phones, which is saying, stay near a protected space, stay near, and their sirens are going off around the whole country. Sirens are going off around the whole country. And we happen to have been 2 hours away from home, which was extremely scary for me because my kids were far away, and we did not know what was going on, except there were little hints here and there. People were reporting a lot of airplanes going in Beit Shemesh and then in Iraq airspace. And so we kind of thought we knew, but at the time, we did not know that the Air Force was, while they were attacking, also with the Mossad, had taken out many of the ballistic missiles and the launchers. So we thought, this is it. We're going to be in bunkers now for 72 hours as they respond. And it was a really, really terrifying thing. But afterwards, to find out that while they were taking out these nuclear facilities and the people that have been running the nuclear program, that they were also taking out the Iranian regime's ability to respond, was tremendous. And they flew over the skies of Iran for hours. And as someone who talks about women's rights and women's opportunities, it's incredible to see a female navigator come back and say, we did this for the next generation. We did this for our people. And it's just true. I think the people, the pilots, the navigators take on this responsibility, and really the danger of flying over these hostile countries to save us. And they have been incredible, not just in hitting their targets, but also in stopping the missiles that are coming back towards us. So the Air Force is absolutely my hero this week. I thank every single one of you for all your sacrifice, for everything you've done, for everything you continue to do for us. May you just stay safe. Stay safe.
I definitely agree, Shoshana. I think, honestly, they must be the best Air Force in the world. I don't see anybody that compares to these guys and girls. And they went the furthest that any Air Force has ever gone. It's like, some crazy, like 1,000, 2,000 miles or kilometers. Crazy,
So
crazy far.
I read that the United States and Israel modified the planes to not need to refuel. So this is what,
incredible.
When we talk about the United States, whether they're involved and whether they're helping us.
Of course they're involved. Of course they're helping. Yeah, we all know that. Thanks, Shoshana. Lily, who is your hero or heroes this week?
Honestly, my heroes at the moment are all of the people of Iran who are resisting the regime and are gathering their might, as they are extremely frightened and traumatized at the sudden sight of war that they were not expecting to really materialize and experience in this life. We were hoping that without this regime, this peace will come into existence and Iranian people will be free. But my true heroes would be the Iranian people. But at the same time, all of the people in prison at the moment, all the Iranian prisoners who are on death row. Mojahed Kurkur was an Iranian innocent man who was he was accused of killing Kian Pir Falak, a 9-year-old young boy from Ize. And even his family, his father who was also shot and is currently living with huge health implications and I think physical disabilities since the bullets going through their heart and killing Kian Pir Falak and injuring his father. They have come out and said Mojahed wasn't the man who killed our child. It was IRGC. They still executed it a few days ago. And while Mojahed was in prison, his sister, who was also a human rights activist, she died in hospital from cancer. So that family suffered a huge, huge blow of pain, all at the hands of this regime, just like so many other Iranian people who are currently suffering at the hands of this regime. So my heroes are the Iranian people. I look forward to their unity. I am in solidarity with all of my loved ones in Iran, and I'm in solidarity with my friends who are hitting Israel too. I wish this war will bring an end to this regime and be a tool of help for Iranian people rather than be a tool of devastation for Iran.
Amen. And these are such brave people, Lily. And the women that stood up against them who were killed, like Masa Amini, Emily, Shoshana, and myself, we organized the first rallies in Israel in favor of the Freedom, Life, Women, Freedom movement. We're very proud that we were there doing that work. And we pray for a day that we can all go and visit you, Lily, in Tehran and have a nice drink somewhere. So we look forward to those days, and they will come. And my hero is actually Bibi Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu, our prime minister, love him or hate him, you have to have a lot of guts, not only for a little country like Israel, the size of New Jersey, to attack a country the size of Texas, which is tens and tens of meters and of kilometers bigger than this country, to be this little country attacking this massive behemoth of a country in order to eliminate the nuclear threat by the way he did it. I just want to remind everybody, tomorrow night, Bibi Netanyahu was supposed to marry his son. And in Israel, everybody was going crazy. Why is he doing such a big wedding? And what wedding is he doing? And in fact, he used his own family celebration to trick the Iranian regime into thinking that there was nothing going to be happening this week. Now, you can, like I said, Bibi is a figure that some people love, some people hate, but you've got to give the man the credit for pressing the button and saying, we need to do this now. We can't wait. Iran is going to go, the Islamic Republic is going to go to the point of no return, and my country is going to live under an existential threat forever. We can't let this happen. Defy all the world leaders that were condemning Israel for Gaza, a war we didn't start, and even being prepared to go it alone. And again, using his own family and that opportunity to trick the world and to trick especially Islamic Republic of Iran. Benjamin Netanyahu, you are my hero, and I think a lot of people's hero this week. I know that he sees himself in the image of Churchill. And again, Churchill was a flawed human being too. But ultimately, he stood alone in front of the world, as Israel is standing alone right now, with help from our American allies. We need much more help, but we are actually fighting the civilizational war of our generation. And it was Bibi who actually pushed this forward, who's been talking about it for 15 years, and who actually is getting it done. So that's who my hero is this week. And on that note, we pray not just for the return of our hostages, all of them, from the dungeons in Gaza, but we pray for a swift end to this war and to the liberation of the Iranian people under the yoke of a terribly toxic Islamic repressive regime, and so that we can have a better region for ourselves and our children for many generations to come.